It's likely that 80% of you are unfamiliar with these historical events of the Vietnam War. An important fact about the A-4 Skyhawk that is rarely told. From the outset, this aircraft was considered simple and lacked any distinctive features. It was not supersonic and lacked the latest weapons and systems. And oddly enough, it was this simplicity that became the main advantage, thanks to which it not only outlived its peers but also remains relevant to this day. It is a legend. It's Douglas A-4 Skyhawk. The A-4 Skyhawk attack aircraft played a crucial role in prolonging the Vietnam War. It helped the U.S. Marine Corps maintain its position and wear down the opposing forces. The A-4's relentless bombing campaigns weakened North Vietnam's resolve and created significant challenges for both North Vietnamese soldiers and the Viet Cong. However, despite its substantial contributions, the A-4, along with many other modern American military assets, was only capable of delaying defeat. A prime example of its effectiveness was the A-4 Skyhawk's crucial support, which enabled the U.S. Marines to withstand a fierce North Vietnamese Army assault on the Con Thien base on May 8, 1967. The intense fighting at Con Thien was not accidental, it was the direct result of a high-level strategic clash. General William Westmoreland, commander of the Military Assistance Command Vietnam, championed a search and destroy strategy. He pushed for a strong static defense just south of the DMZ, or Demilitarized Zone, to block People's Army of Vietnam PAVN infiltration into Quang Tri Province. This vision clashed with the Marine Corps' traditional doctrine of mobile warfare, fiercely advocated by Lieutenant General Lewis Walt, commander of the 3rd Marine Amphibious Force. Walt argued that tying down his elite troops in fixed positions would make them vulnerable targets. Ultimately, Westmoreland's strategy prevailed. Under pressure from Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, the Marines were ordered to establish a line of fortified outposts, including Con Thien Gio Lin Cam Lo and Khe San. This defensive chain, part of the ill-fated McNamara Line, created exactly the scenario Walt had feared: isolated garrisons that the PAVN could besiege and pummel with long-range artillery hidden safely across the DMZ. The Marines on the ground were now fixed targets in a deadly artillery duel. This strategic reality created an absolute non-negotiable dependency on one thing: immediate, precise, and overwhelming close air support. The stage was set for the A-4 Skyhawk to prove its worth. The A-4 Skyhawk was designed by Douglas aircraft designer Ed Heinemann. His philosophy was to strip away complexity and weight, resulting in the smallest, lightest, and most straightforward jet attack aircraft possible. The result was a masterpiece of lethal efficiency. The A-4 was not the fastest or most technologically advanced aircraft in the U.S. inventory, but it was perfect for the gritty work of supporting ground troops. Its delta-wing design provided excellent low-speed handling and stability, crucial for accurate weapons delivery in the chaos of a firefight. It was tough, capable of absorbing significant punishment and still bringing its pilot home. Its simple systems made it easy to maintain at forward air bases like Da Nang and Chu Lai, ensuring a high sortie rate. Most importantly, for an aircraft of its diminutive size, it could carry a staggering payload of up to 900 to 900 pounds of ordnance on its hard points. This arsenal was a terrifyingly versatile toolkit for the Marine aviators. They could load their Skyhawks with a mix of Mk-82 Snake-Eye bombs. These 500-pound bombs were fitted with high-drag fins that deployed after release, slowing the bomb's descent. This was a critical innovation, allowing the A-4 to perform low-level bombing runs, release its payload, and pull away before the blast, all while maintaining pinpoint accuracy. They were devastating against trenches, bunkers, and troop formations. Zuni rockets fired from pods. These 5-inch rockets provided a massive shotgun-like blast effect, ideal for saturating an area and suppressing enemy fire during a Marine counterattack. Napalm canisters. Perhaps the most feared weapon, napalm could engulf bunkers and trench lines in an inferno, psychologically shattering enemy morale while being brutally effective at clearing fortified positions. Twin 20 mm cannons with 100 rounds per gun. The cannons were the pilot's surgical tool for strafing runs targeting specific machine gun nests or anti-aircraft positions that threatened the Marines below. This combination of a capable airframe, a versatile payload, and the ingrained Marine ethos of air-ground integration made the A-4 Skyhawk the definitive close air support platform of the DMZ. In the pre-dawn darkness of May 8, 1967, the PAVN sought to make a statement. Timed to coincide with the anniversary of the French defeat at Dien Bien Phu, 2 battalions of the elite 812th Regiment prepared to overrun Con Thien. Their intelligence was flawed. They believed the outpost was primarily defended by less reliable South Vietnamese troops. They were unaware that 2 reinforced companies of the 1st Battalion 4th Marines now held the line. At 2:55 a.m., the sky lit up. A furious 300-round bombardment of mortars and artillery slammed into the firebase designed to pin down the defenders. Under this deafening barrage, highly trained PVN sappers crept forward using Bangalore torpedoes to blow holes in the perimeter's concertina wire. At 4:00 a.m., the main assault force surged forward, pouring through the gaps with AK-47s, RPGs, and for the first time against Marines' flamethrowers. The attack struck the northern perimeter held by Captain John Jewell's company. Bunkers collapsed, communications were severed, and the Marines found themselves in a desperate close-quarters battle for survival. Many of their new M16 rifles jammed in the heat of the fight, forcing them to use them as clubs or discard them entirely. The situation was critical. It was in this moment of crisis that the call went out, air support now. From the airfields at Da Nang and Chu Lai Marine, A-4 Skyhawks were already scrambling. Guided by a forward air controller FAC, either on the ground or circling above in a light observation plane, the Skyhawk pilots became the fire base's salvation. They rolled in one by one, their jet engines a welcome scream that cut through the cacophony of battle. The A-4 pilots demonstrated the full spectrum of their craft. They executed steep dive bombing runs, their sights locked onto the red pennant flags the PAVN used to mark their penetration routes. A stream of snake-eye bombs walked right up to the perimeter wire, obliterating the follow-on waves of PAVN soldiers massing for the next push. The ground shook as the bombs turned the open terrain into a cratered hellscape, denying the enemy any cover. Where PAVN troops had managed to get inside the wire and were engaging the Marines in the trenches, the Skyhawks switched tactics. They swooped low, unleashing canisters of napalm that washed over the contested ground, stopping enemy advances cold and giving the hard-pressed Marines a vital moment to regroup. Immediately following the fire, other A-4s would make strafing runs with their 20mm cannons, suppressing enemy machine gunners and allowing Marine reinforcements, including engineers armed with reliable M14s, to plug the gaps in the line. The air support was relentless and perfectly synchronized with the fight on the ground. The pressure it took off the defenders cannot be overstated. It allowed the surviving M48 Patton tanks on the perimeter to maneuver and fire their devastating anti-personnel beehive rounds. It gave wounded leaders like Captain Jewell the breathing room to organize a counterattack. By daylight, the assault had been broken. The PAVN withdrew. The Marines had held, but the cost was high: 44 killed and 110 wounded. It was a victory forged in equal parts by the tenacity of the grunts and the precision firepower of the A-4s overhead. The May 8th attack was not an isolated event but the opening act of a prolonged siege. For the rest of 1967, Con Thien and the surrounding fire bases were subjected to an almost daily torrent of PAVN artillery fire. During a period in September, over 1,000 rounds a day slammed into the small outpost. Here, the A-4 Skyhawk's role evolved from emergency response to a sustained campaign of attrition. Skyhawk pilots flew countless missions on a new dangerous hunt counter battery fire. tasked with locating and destroying the well-camouflaged Pavian 130mm artillery pieces north of the DMZ. Pilots engaged in a deadly cat-and-mouse game. They would fly low over suspected enemy territory, trying to draw fire, then roll in to attack the gun position once it revealed itself. Furthermore, the A-4 became the primary tool for interdiction. Marine Skyhawks alongside Navy and Air Force assets relentlessly pounded the supply routes running through the DMZ. Every truck, every supply dump, and every suspected troop movement became a target. While this air campaign couldn't completely halt the flow of men and materiel, it imposed a heavy price on the PAVN and disrupted their ability to stage larger coordinated attacks. Throughout Operations Hastings Prairie and Buffalo, the major Marine counteroffensives in the area, the A-4 was a constant presence. It prepped landing zones for heliborne assaults, provided cover for advancing infantry, and relentlessly pursued retreating enemy forces. For the Marine on the ground, the distinctive silhouette of the scooter became a symbol of hope, a guarantee that they were not alone. However, the truth is that it was not until now that the A-4 proved its worth. This story began many years before that. The A-4 Skyhawk cemented its legendary status early in the Vietnam conflict, establishing a reputation that would endure throughout its service life. From its first combat sorties to unexpected aerial victories, the nimble attack jet repeatedly proved its worth in the harshest combat conditions. The Skyhawk's combat debut came in August 1964 during the Tonkin Gulf incident, when A-4s conducted some of the first bombing runs from aircraft carriers following the historic Tonkin Gulf resolution. These initial strikes targeted North Vietnamese torpedo boats that had allegedly attacked American destroyers in the Gulf of Tonkin. However, this historic mission came with a sobering cost, and A-4 was quickly shot down, and its pilot, Lieutenant Junior Grade Everett Alvarez, became the first naval aviator captured during the Vietnam War. Throughout the conflict, the lightweight bomber would go on to fly more combat missions than any other naval aircraft. The A-4's effectiveness was particularly evident in strikes against key bridges used by North Vietnamese forces to transport troops and supplies. Furthermore, the aircraft proved invaluable to ground troops, providing crucial close air support that saved countless American lives during dangerous combat operations. By the time the conflict ended, Skyhawk pilots had written an impressive chapter in naval aviation history, albeit at a heavy price. In total, 195 carrier-based Skyhawks fell to enemy fire during the Vietnam War. Among those forced to eject were notable figures including Medal of Honor recipient Commander James B. Stockdale and future Senator John S. McCain III. One of the most remarkable Skyhawk combat stories occurred on May 1, 1967, when Lieutenant Commander Theodore R. Swartz accomplished what many thought impossible. While assigned to VA-76 aboard the USS Bonhomme Richard during a strike on the Kep Air Base near Hanoi, Swartz achieved the A-4's only air-to-air victory of the Vietnam War. Originally tasked with SEAD suppression of enemy air defense duties, Swartz was armed with Zuni rocket pods, unguided 5-inch rockets designed for ground targets. After destroying MiGs on the ground, his aircraft came under attack from enemy fighters. Faced with an approaching MiG-17 and no time to prepare his 21mm cannons, Swartz took a chance with his unlikely air-to-air weapon. After missing with his first rocket, Swartz stayed on his opponent's tail and fired again. Shortly thereafter, his wingman confirmed the kill. The MiG struck by Swartz's unguided Zuni rocket fluttered down behind a hill and crashed, leaving a plume of black smoke to mark this extraordinary victory. This remarkable achievement was especially noteworthy since only one Skyhawk was confirmed shot down by enemy aircraft during the entire conflict. Pilots quickly grew to appreciate the A-4's nimble handling characteristics despite or sometimes because of its idiosyncrasies. John Cheshire, a former naval aviator with extensive Skyhawk experience, described it as the most fun aircraft I ever flew. He noted its incredible agility with a roll rate of 720 degrees per second, making it exceptionally responsive. Nevertheless, mastering the A-4 required adaptation. Pilots discovered they could rarely trim it for hands-off flying as the aircraft always wanted to play. Additionally, some models presented unique challenges. The early A-4C had an older, more sluggish engine and lacked ground spoilers, making crosswind landings particularly tricky. One common issue that plagued pilots occurred during aerial combat maneuvering when the leading-edge aerodynamic slats would occasionally stick out or deploy asymmetrically. This could create an unexpected rolling motion that proved challenging to control, especially during tight, slow-speed dogfights. Experienced pilots learned to nose over aggressively to reduce angle of attack, which generally corrected the problem, although executing this maneuver at low altitude could be disconcerting. Yet despite these quirks, the Skyhawk inspired tremendous loyalty among its pilots. As Cheshire eloquently put it, with the A-4 you don't actually fly it as you wear it. It quickly and responsively becomes an extended part of you and will do most anything you desire it to do. Throughout numerous conflicts, A-4 Skyhawk pilots routinely face death-defying situations that showcase both the aircraft's remarkable capabilities and the extraordinary skill of those who flew it. These real combat stories revealed why the Douglas A-4 Skyhawk earned its reputation as one of America's most effective light attack aircraft. In the long and storied history of American warfare, few battles resonate with the same raw intensity and desperation as the 77-day siege of Khe Sanh. For the 6,000 U.S. Marines and their South Vietnamese allies trapped there in early 1968, it was a fight for survival against overwhelming odds. Surrounded by a force of nearly 40,000 battle-hardened North Vietnamese Army or NVA soldiers cut off from reinforcement by land and pounded daily by a relentless barrage of artillery and rockets, the defenders of Khe Sanh were in a perilous predicament. The strategic situation in January 1968 was grim. The NVA had encircled the remote Khe Sanh combat base. Their goal was clear: to overrun the base, annihilate its defenders, and score a devastating psychological and military victory against the United States. With the monsoon weather cloaking the highlands in a persistent blanket of fog and low-hanging clouds, the NVA dug in, extending a network of trenches and artillery positions that tightened like a noose around the marine perimeter. For the men on the ground, every day was a harrowing existence under fire, their world shrinking to the confines of their muddy foxholes and bunkers. Into this maelstrom flew the A-4 Skyhawk. Operating from the decks of aircraft carriers like the USS Bonhomme Richard in the Gulf of Tonkin and from land bases like Chu Lai Marine and Navy attack squadrons, became the flying artillery for the besieged garrison. The Skyhawk was in many ways the perfect weapon for this fight. The operational tempo was punishing a relentless grind that tested the limits of both man and machine. Pilots were pushed to the edge of human endurance, tasked with flying into one of the most heavily defended patches of airspace on the planet. Lieutenant Junior Grade John Kuczynski, a naval aviator with Attack Squadron 72 VA-72, vividly recalled the grueling routine. We went every day for about a month to Khe Sanh, with each pilot flying 2 sorties a day. This wasn't a simple flight. Each mission was a journey through a gauntlet of anti-aircraft artillery, from small arms to heavy-caliber cannons, all reaching up to swat the Skyhawks from the sky. The weather was a constant enemy, with pilots often forced to navigate through thick clouds, breaking out at dangerously low altitudes with only seconds to identify their target and deliver their ordnance. The very nature of the fighting at Khe Sanh Trench warfare, with enemy and friendly lines separated by terrifyingly short distances, demanded a level of skill that bordered on the unbelievable. This was the world of danger close air support, the most demanding mission a pilot can fly, where the slightest error means killing the very troops you are trying to save. In these moments, the synergy between the A-4's nimble handling and the pilot's nerves of steel was paramount. NVA forces had advanced through their trench system and were poised to overrun a Marine position. The fighting was desperate, with enemy soldiers a mere 75 meters, less than the length of a football field, from the Marines' foxholes. A forward air controller on the ground, his voice strained with urgency over the radio, called for an immediate airstrike on the attackers. For the inbound Skyhawk pilots, the task was immense. Following the FAC's instructions, they watched as the Marines marked their forward line with red panels and colored smoke. Their attack profile would be a steep dive through the clouds, emerging into a chaotic scene of smoke explosions and tracer fire. They had to instantly orient themselves, visually acquire their friendly smoke, and then with absolute precision place their string of 500-pound bombs in that tiny 75-meter gap. This was not done with GPS or laser-guided munitions. This was Ironsides bombing, relying on instinct, experience, and an unwavering hand on the control stick. As they dove, enemy anti-aircraft fire erupted around them, forcing them to jink and weave while still keeping their aim true. The immense pressure, knowing that dozens of American lives depended on their accuracy, was a weight heavier than any bomb. The 77-day siege of Kherson was ultimately broken not by a ground assault but by the relentless and overwhelming application of American air power. And at the very heart of that effort was the A-4 Skyhawk. It proved to be more than just an effective aircraft. It was the right aircraft at the right time. Its story at Kherson is a powerful testament to a brilliant design, but even more so, it is a monument to the pilots who flew it, men who day after day willingly flew into the jaws of death to protect their brothers on the ground, cementing the A-4 Skyhawk's legacy as one of America's most revered combat aircraft. The 1982 Falklands War stands as one of the most dramatic demonstrations of the Skyhawk's capabilities, showcasing the courage and ingenuity of Argentine pilots who wielded the aircraft against a formidable British naval task force. Argentina's fleet of 48 A-4 Skyhawks, comprising A-4B, A-4C, and A-4Q variants, became the backbone of their air operations during the conflict. Operating under severe constraints, these pilots flew at extreme low altitudes, often skimming just above the waves to evade sophisticated British radar systems and the highly maneuverable Harrier jets. This low-level flight profile, while perilous, allowed them to approach British ships with a degree of surprise, maximizing the impact of their attacks. Despite their bravery, the cost was staggering. Of the 48 Skyhawks deployed, 22 were lost, representing nearly half of Argentina's fleet. These losses were a testament to the intensity of the conflict and the risks taken by pilots who often flew without the benefit of escort fighters or advanced electronic countermeasures. Yet their efforts yielded devastating results. Argentine A-4s were responsible for sinking the British destroyer HMS Coventry and the frigate HMS Ardent, while inflicting severe damage on several other vessels, including the destroyer HMS Glasgow and the frigate HMS Antelope. These strikes underscored the Skyhawk's ability to deliver precise and lethal payloads, even in the face of overwhelming defensive firepower. The courage of these pilots, many of whom undertook what were essentially suicide missions, remains a poignant chapter in the aircraft's storied history. The Israeli Air Force's experience with the A-4 Skyhawk during the 1973 Yom Kippur War further cemented the aircraft's reputation as a versatile and resilient platform. Caught off guard by a coordinated surprise attack from Egypt and Syria, Israel faced a dire situation with Soviet-supplied surface-to-air missile SAM systems posing a significant threat to its air operations. Early in the conflict, Israeli Skyhawks suffered heavy losses to these advanced SAMs, particularly the SA-2, SA-3, and SA-6 systems, which blanketed the battlefields of the Sinai Peninsula and the Golan Heights. However, the Israeli Air Force's ability to adapt quickly turned the tide. Israeli pilots developed innovative tactics to counter the SAM threat, including low-level ingress routes and rapid coordinated strikes that overwhelmed enemy defenses. Over the course of the war, Israeli A-4s flew more than 1,000 combat sorties, providing critical close air support to ground forces and striking key enemy targets. These missions were instrumental in halting Arab armored advances, particularly on the Egyptian front, where Skyhawks targeted tank columns and fortified positions with devastating precision. Israel's success with the Skyhawk was not solely due to pilot skill, but also to extensive modifications that transformed the aircraft into a more lethal and capable platform. Upgraded avionics, including improved navigation and targeting systems, enhanced the A-4's accuracy in ground attack roles. The addition of more powerful engines and increased fuel capacity extended its range and endurance, allowing it to operate effectively over the vast battlefields of the Middle East. Furthermore, the integration of advanced weaponry such as precision-guided munitions and cluster bombs made the Skyhawk a formidable tool for disrupting enemy offensives. These adaptations ensured that the A-4 remained a cornerstone of Israel's air strategy even as newer, more advanced aircraft entered service. Beyond major powers like the United States and Israel, the A-4 Skyhawk found a home in the air forces of smaller nations where its simplicity, reliability, and low maintenance requirements made it an ideal choice for operations in challenging environments. Kuwait, for example, relied on its A4KU Skyhawks to defend against Iraqi border incursions in the years leading up to the 1990 Gulf War. These aircraft, tailored for Kuwait's needs with enhanced avionics and weaponry, provided a credible deterrent against a much larger adversary. Their ability to operate from austere airfields and deliver precise strikes was critical in a region where infrastructure was often limited. Similarly, Malaysia's A4 PTM Skyhawks played a vital role in counterinsurgency operations during the late 20th century. Operating in dense jungle terrain where visibility and navigation posed significant challenges, Malaysian pilots used the Skyhawk's agility and low-altitude capabilities to target communist guerrilla strongholds. The aircraft's ability to carry a diverse array of ordnance from bombs to rocket pods allowed it to adapt to the fluid and unpredictable nature of jungle warfare. Its rugged design and ease of maintenance further ensured that it could sustain operations in remote areas with minimal logistical support. In Indonesia, the Skyhawk proved equally invaluable during the conflict in East Timor. Operating from rudimentary airstrips, Indonesian A-4s conducted ground attack missions with remarkable effectiveness, leveraging the aircraft's ability to deliver ordnance with pinpoint accuracy. The Skyhawk's compact size and robust construction allowed it to operate in environments where larger, more complex aircraft would have struggled. This adaptability made it a lifeline for nations with limited resources, enabling them to project air power in ways that would have otherwise been impossible. The enduring success of the A-4 Skyhawk can be attributed to its ingenious design, which prioritized simplicity, reliability, and versatility. Developed in the 1950s by Douglas Aircraft Company under the leadership of legendary designer Ed Heinemann, the Skyhawk was conceived as a lightweight carrier-based attack aircraft capable of delivering nuclear and conventional payloads. Its small size, earning it the nickname Heinemann's Hot Rod, belied its potent capabilities. Powered by a single turbojet engine, the A-4 was nimble and cost-effective, making it an attractive option for nations seeking to maximize their air power on limited budgets. The Skyhawk's airframe was designed for durability with a reinforced structure that could withstand the rigors of low-level flight and combat operations. Its delta wing configuration provided excellent maneuverability, while its compact size allowed it to operate from small aircraft carriers and makeshift runways. The aircraft's maintenance requirements were minimal thanks to a design that emphasized accessibility and ease of repair. This was particularly appealing to smaller air forces, which often lacked the extensive support infrastructure required by more complex aircraft. Long after its frontline combat days ended, the Douglas A-4 Skyhawk continues its remarkable journey, transforming from feared attacker to valued trainer and aggressor aircraft. Remarkably, nearly 7 decades after its 1954 first flight, A-4 Skyhawks remain operational with the Argentine Air Force, and Brazilian naval aviation. Argentina flies the modernized A-4AR Fighting Hawk variant featuring the AN/APG-66V2 radar alongside their OA-4ARs in fighter trainer roles. Brazilian Navy operates upgraded AF-1B single-seaters and AF-1C two-seaters modernized by Embraer. The Skyhawk's nimble performance made it ideal for simulating enemy MiG-17s in dissimilar air combat training. At the Navy's Top Gun school, instructors Jester and Viper flew A-4s as adversary aircraft until 1999. Their exceptional maneuverability, approaching a 1:1 thrust-to-weight ratio, when stripped of non-essential equipment, enabled them to outperform larger fighters like F-4 Phantoms and F-14 Tomcats. Presently, several companies operate Skyhawks for military training. Top Aces flies upgraded A4Ns with cutting-edge AESA radar and IRST sensors. Draken International maintains 11 former Royal New Zealand Air Force A4s. These contractors provide crucial aggressor training for modern air forces. The Skyhawk's endurance stems from its reliability, adaptability, and cost-effectiveness. Operational costs of only $3,000 per flight hour versus $42,000 for an F-15 make it economically viable. Throughout its life, the A-4 has fulfilled diverse roles from Blue Angels demonstration aircraft 1974 to 1986 to adversary trainer, proving itself the most fun aircraft many pilots ever flew. The A-4 Skyhawk's legacy is defined by its unmatched adaptability, proving that simplicity and reliability often outshine raw power. Designed as a lightweight, no-frills attack aircraft, it excelled where more advanced jets faltered, particularly in the demanding close air support missions of the Vietnam War. Its ability to deliver precise, devastating strikes under fire saved countless lives, from the besieged Marines at Con Thien to the defenders of Khe Sanh. Beyond Vietnam, the Skyhawk became a global workhorse, with Argentina using it to devastating effect in the Falklands War, Israel adapting it to counter SAM threats during the Yom Kippur War, and smaller nations like Kuwait and Malaysia relying on its versatility for defense and counterinsurgency. Even after retiring from combat, the A-4 found new purpose as a trainer and aggressor aircraft, its agility making it ideal for simulating enemy fighters in programs like Top Gun. Today, modernized variants still fly, a testament to its enduring design. The Skyhawk's true brilliance lay in its ability to evolve, whether through pilot ingenuity, tactical adjustments, or structural upgrades, ensuring its relevance across decades and conflicts. More than just a machine, it became a symbol of resilience, trusted by those who flew it and feared by those who faced it. In an era of ever more complex weapon systems, the A-4 stands as a reminder that effectiveness, not sophistication, defines greatness in military aviation. Its story is one of triumph through simplicity, cementing its place as one of history's most iconic attack aircraft.